introducing Los Angeles Police Officer George Clark. Officer Clark, along with his brother policeman, is a veteran of World War II and now one of the newer members of the department. At present, he is assigned to a foot patrol beat in the busy Central Division, which is the heart of metropolitan Los Angeles. In order to understand some of the numerous problems confronting Officer Clark, it is first necessary to realize that the task of law enforcement has been greatly magnified in the rapidly expanding city of Los Angeles. Since only 1940, Los Angeles has shown an overwhelming increase in population of over 375,000, which is larger than the entire city of San Diego. This enormous influx of people coming here from all parts of the world was due primarily to an urgent demand for sufficient labor in order to achieve the tremendous goal established by Southern California industry during World War II. It is little wonder that this thriving city with an area of over 452 square miles is not only the largest in the United States, but it is also the center of a county that is leading the nation in aircraft, motion picture, and agriculture production. A registration in Los Angeles of over 530,000 vehicles places us third in the United States, and we are rapidly approaching Chicago's position of second place. We are proud of our harbor, which leads the combined ports of the Pacific Coast in tonnage, having a value of over $500 million annually, making it one of the leading shipping centers of the world. This rapid expansion still prevails, many of whom are families of veterans who visited Los Angeles during their military service. Within the city limits, there are several large suburban areas, one of the most famous of which is Hollywood, the center of the motion picture industry. The beaches on the west and south of the city present a seasonal problem that reaches its peak in midsummer when thousands of citizens converge on this popular area. In order to accommodate the enormous crowds, extensive plans for expansion and modernization of these beach resorts are already in progress. An accelerated housing development program is playing a vital part in the plans for absorbing this terrific growth in population. The latest figures show that we lead the nation in the value of building permits issued. Establishment in this vicinity of two of the nation's largest racetracks has intensified police activity. Another law enforcement problem of major importance is the intricate deployment of police personnel required to handle the huge Coliseum, with a capacity of 103,000, making it the largest permanent seating stadium in the United States. It is here that well over 1 million spectators annually witness some of the most famous football games in the nation, in addition to the many thousands who enjoy track meets, rodeos, and numerous other events. If Officer Clark is to function efficiently, it was imperative that he receive at least 6 weeks of intensive training at the modern Los Angeles Police Academy in the fundamentals of both the academic and physical phases of law enforcement. It is this essential training that will materially assist Clark in doing a better job, not only for the public, but also for himself and his department, as he will be able to act intelligently and thus acquire that pride in his chosen profession that comes from a job well done. In accepting the duties of a police officer, Clark has assumed responsibilities foreign to a civilian way of life. He now finds himself an example of proper decorum at all times because the public is looking to him for proper guidance, and he must not let them down. By having a tolerant understanding of the problems of the citizen and realizing that many of them have been living and working under laws foreign to our own, he will be able to fulfill his duties in a more intelligent manner. Prompt attendance at roll call is a requisite throughout the department. It is here that Officer Clark is advised of the latest developments in both crime and departmental orders. The current list of stolen cars, known as the hot sheet, is brought up to date with descriptions of wanted suspects being recorded on the reverse side in addition to the notebook for ready reference. The watch lieutenant is stressing the importance of continually being on the alert for crime and directing particular attention to a forgery suspect, who is described in the nationally distributed Los Angeles Daily Police Bulletin. The attention of the officers is also directed to the traffic bulletins, which show an increase in hit-and-run accidents. The latest involving a 1938 Buick sedan with no license plates and with a broken front bumper and damaged left front fender. The officers are advised to give particular attention to the divisional crime PIN map, which indicates the new crimes that have occurred. Officer Clark, by observing the various locations of the colored pins corresponding to the respective crimes, is able to plan his beat patrol in an effective manner. Before assuming their duties in the field, each watch is subjected to a rigid inspection for both proper equipment and personal appearance. To assist the officers in checking their appearance prior to these inspections, an adequate mirror plus a picture of a properly uniformed officer have been installed in 15 police divisions. Not only must each officer be neatly groomed, but he must also have the proper equipment on his person, and it must be in first-class condition at all times. The proper type and number of rounds of ammunition is one of the important essentials. The experienced officer is aware that these necessary inspections are not only vital for the welfare of the citizen, but also for the officer's own protection. In order to have the proper coverage at all times, it is essential that the beat patrolman report to his duty immediately and notify the officer on the Gamewell communication system of his arrival. Subsequent rings during his tour of duty should be made as near as possible at hourly intervals. Clark's training has stressed the importance of directing his attention to both sides of the street. One of the many problems confronting the new officer is his authority for arresting drunks. Here he is making a drunk arrest on a public conveyance under Section 4127A of the Municipal Code, which pertains to drunks in places open to the public. As the drunk is unruly, Clark handcuffs his hands behind his back. A beat man soon learns that he is continually being offered gratuities, many times in the form of a bribe, and the proper handling of his beat will depend on how well he refrains from obligating himself to this type of citizen. One of the quickest ways to break down respect for yourself and your department is to play favorites on your beat. In order to maintain harmony, an impartial attitude should be shown in all your contacts. Always remember that the man in the profession of law enforcement has to be extremely cautious about obligating himself to a few to the detriment of the public at large. Confusion often arises in an officer's mind regarding the proper procedure to follow when making a citizen's arrest. This arrest is usually concerned with a misdemeanor that has not occurred in the officer's presence. Because these arrests are often made during the heat of passion and the tempers of those involved may cool later, it is important to remember that when you are confronted with this problem, make sure, as the officers are doing here, that the arresting citizen comes to the station and signs the necessary reports. There are three important types of disasters which may occur on your beat at any time of the day or night. The first type, is depicted here, in which 17 persons were killed and 151 injured, is the sudden major disaster caused usually by an explosion which devastates a large area where you are perhaps the only person of authority. It is imperative that your first duty is to immediately notify your superior officers of the general location of the disaster, the best possible routes for emergency equipment, and any other vital information that will expedite the rescue work. The rapid news coverage facilities employed by the radio and newspaper industry will attract a large crowd of curious citizens to the area, thus adding to the hazard and jamming the important traffic arteries. It should be obvious that if you delay your notification, a still more serious situation may develop, causing more death, injuries, and property damage. The second type of disaster, which is more common to the Valley Division but could easily happen anywhere, is the airplane crash that often involves planes equipped with highly confidential military equipment. In addition to immediately notifying your division, it is your duty to protect the crash area from the public and to be on the alert for any possible explosion of the gasoline or oxygen tanks. The third type is concerned primarily with a major fire disaster. This incident has already been reported via the fire alarm system, and the fire department has exclusive control at the scene. Here you are to confine your activities to aiding and assisting the fire department personnel. One of your most important functions is to direct vehicular and pedestrian traffic in order that emergency equipment may operate efficiently. Advising the curious crowds of the possibility of an explosion is an effective method of obtaining their cooperation. By being alert during roll call, Officer Clark recalls that there is a one-out for a 1938 Buick sedan with no license plates and a damaged left front fender and broken bumper which was involved in a hit-and-run accident. His procedure is to record the location and notify the hit-and-run detail immediately. Being familiar with the routine activities of the merchants on your beat will aid you considerably in doing a proper job of patrol. Any definite deviation from the normal should arouse your curiosity to the point of investigation. When you take action, do so in an alert and authoritative manner. If danger is indicated, don't be reluctant to draw your gun, remembering to keep it on double action and out of the reach of the suspect. Make sure that all of your commands are clear so that no possible misunderstanding can occur. Enthusiasm is one of the chief attributes of a successful officer. But if it is misdirected, thus causing the officer to jump to conclusions, an embarrassing situation like this may develop. It would be much better to survey the scene first so that when you do take action, you can do so in an intelligent manner. Well, Officer Clark now realizes that all is not gold that glitters. Patrolling a beat correctly means that not only should the sidewalk area be covered, but also the officer should direct his attention behind obstructions that could easily invite crime. Observe that Clark proceeds to turn the suspect's back towards him in order to minimize the opportunity for a possible assault on the part of the drunk. You should attempt to get your man to a call box as soon as possible. Be sure, however, that before putting in your call, you refrain from exposing yourself to a serious attack such as this. The safest and proper procedure is to handle the suspect in this manner, making certain that before you call in, his hands are cuffed behind his back. In addition, it is plain to see here that it is important to have the suspect seated so that he will be unable to fall and injure himself. Don't, however, let the suspect remain seated in this position, as a car may run over his legs. Rather, seat him near the call box and you will be able to employ an additional control by standing on his coattail. Clark will soon be able to verify that he is now a member of a profession that definitely requires a flexible temperament. Day after day and hour after hour, he will find himself dealing with dangerous felons, belligerent drunks, confused seniles, lost children, etc., and with each particular problem requiring a different temperament on the part of the officer. How extremely different this is from most other occupations where a more or less even temperament can prevail throughout the day. Not the least of a beat man's duties will be the task of assisting persons who are subject to epileptic seizures, diabetic shock, heart trouble, and various other ailments which requires the officer to protect the victim from injuring himself and to obtain an ambulance as soon as possible. A considerable portion of your beat patrol should be spent in and around bus, railroad, and streetcar stations. Among other things, you should be on the alert for baggage snatchers, lost children, molesters of women, and to be of proper assistance, you must have a thorough knowledge of the city in order to give intelligent directions. Many of you may recall from your own experience that it is very annoying to arrive in a strange city and find that the first policeman you ask for directions is just about as confused as you are. When meeting plainclothes officers, don't spoil a possible investigation by an obvious recognition. An alert suspect will be able to detect this brother-officer relationship. Yes, how typical this is of police work. From answering questions only a moment ago to controlling a punch-drunk fighter who hears what he thinks is the call to battle. There are several dangerous punches left in the old boy yet, and woe to the innocent citizen who doesn't change his route. Realizing that this man is mentally sick and a dangerous menace, Officer Clark relies on the use of his baton for the purpose of disarming him. He then proceeds to handcuff his hands behind his back prior to taking him to the hospital detail where he will receive the proper treatment. Directing your attention to alleys adjacent to your beat will be very effective for the purpose of both apprehension and crime prevention. Here, strict attention should be given to your hot sheet, as an alley is a popular avenue for the car thief. Being on the alert for strange noises coming from business establishments will many times be very important in assisting you in making a good arrest. It should be stressed here that if for any reason you feel that you cannot make the arrest without assistance, don't be hesitant about calling for additional help. In order to accomplish this effectively when there is no other alternative, it may even be necessary for you to give some citizen your call box key and request that he call in while you remain on guard. The essence of good law enforcement is cooperation, not only with the officers within your own department, but also with allied agencies that are operating for the public's welfare. Here a notation is being made concerning unsanitary conditions for the purpose of transmitting this information through channels to the health department. Many of these agencies have trained inspectors who can make their follow-up investigation on the basis of these reports. This violation would necessitate a report being made concerning open fires in the vicinity of combustible material and should be directed to the fire department. Officer Clark will often recall the helpful training he received at the academy. This is especially true in the scene depicted here, where Clark has a harmless drunk under control, but is unaware of the drunk's antagonistic girlfriend. Yes, Clark, sometimes they are worse than a wildcat, where they're biting, kicking, scratching, and don't forget that shoe. Brother, this gal is much worse than a wildcat. Who ever heard of a wildcat with shoes? That's right. Handcuff her hands as soon as possible. The following scenes are indicative of behavior that is out of the ordinary and should be investigated. In order to observe these activities more carefully, it is often necessary for the officer to partially conceal himself while he keeps the suspect under surveillance. Your effectiveness as a beat man will depend largely on how well you interpret these various mannerisms. Because they are operating in public view, the auto theft or car prowler suspect has to be extremely cautious. Observing the actions of a possible lookout can often be a tip to the alert officer concerning the commission of a crime. It is the custom of many suspects, such as narcotic addicts, to discard incriminating evidence prior to a shakedown, and the efficient officer will usually be able to detect this. In a city that has such an enormous automobile registration as Los Angeles, there are bound to be accidents. The beat man must be familiar with the proper procedure to follow as pertains to calling an ambulance if needed, in addition to an accident investigation car, and then attempt to locate drivers and witnesses as soon as possible. If you are to accomplish your duties effectively, you will soon learn that it is vitally important that you keep yourself in good physical condition at all times. The word will soon get around among the criminal element on your beat that you are either physically fit or not. It is not difficult to understand that you can make your job much easier by abstaining from deteriorating habits and following a daily routine of physical exercise. As indicated here, it is not only necessary to know the various police holds, but you must also have sufficient strength and endurance to apply them effectively. It almost goes without saying that your beat patrol should include careful observation of all banks and other establishments handling large sums of money. At irregular intervals, it is wise to go inside some business houses in order to check for various types of crime and to look for hot suspects. Many criminal activities are conducted behind innocent-looking business fronts. It is practically impossible for the officer on the beat to be an effective crime deterrent unless he devotes a portion of his time on the inside of his beat as well as on the outside. Observe that after the shakedown, Officer Clark is making a field interrogation card on this suspect for future reference, while he is also alert to the activities of other persons in the room. Thickly populated areas receive Clark's attention, where he is on the alert for pickpockets, bunco artists, annoyers of women more commonly known as bustle rubbers, and various other suspects, in addition to making himself available as a source of information. The proper route of patrol is dependent on several factors, including the time of day, the street lighting facilities, etc. After business hours, he should check the doors on his beat. Good public relations can be developed by giving the merchants a Los Angeles Police emergency notification sticker for placement in their front window. Advising the merchants to also keep their safe area well lighted at night in order to facilitate foot and radio car patrol will prove very effective. Practically every large city has a type of theater that features sex as its main attraction, with lobby displays designed for this purpose. It is the obligation of the officer on the beat to check these displays for lewdness and to survey the interior of the theaters for any possible juveniles. The pulled fire alarm box should be reported immediately, and it should also be noted here that where the boxes are combined, the protective glass panel is easily broken by a deliberate slamming of the police call box door. Another of the many problems confronting the beat man is the drunk who is unable to care for himself and thus may become severely injured. For his own protection, it is desirable to get him off the street as soon as possible. At the time of booking, he should be carefully checked for any possible injuries he may have already received. You will continually be exposed to tragedy in all its various forms, and in the event of impending death, as was the case here, obtain medical aid as soon as possible and then confine your activities to trying to solve the crime. Obtaining a dying declaration where the victim knows he is about to die may prove very valuable in the solution of the crime. Public parks on your beat should receive your attention. It will assist you in this patrol to be well versed in the municipal ordinances pertaining to parks, and also to know that many of these areas are hangouts for degenerates and undesirables who will require your investigation. You can't rely on posted signs, as many children who find parks attractive will be too young to understand them. Pedestrian tunnels such as this should also be carefully checked. By this time, Officer Clark feels that he has handled about everything there is in the line of police work. But he soon learns that one of the most exasperating police problems is dealing with a homosexual whose activities must be controlled. An interrogation card should be made on this suspect for future reference, and to also establish a pattern of his activities, or modus operandi, more commonly referred to as MO. Helping underprivileged children on any beat is good police work, and here Officer Clark is telling this group about the various police-sponsored juvenile programs, including the Deputy Auxiliary Police Camp Valcrest in the Angeles National Forest. It is here that the police department provides a healthy 10-day outing for 150 children at one time. Wholesome food, comfortable sleeping facilities, supervised camp activities, plus the use of a large swimming pool are all provided free if the child is unable to pay. Otherwise, it is all his for only $1 per day. At present, there are over 7,000 members in this fine organization. The Los Angeles Police Department is also proud of its national recognition as the sponsor of over 700 members of 27 Boy Scout troops and 1 Girl Scout troop. In addition, there are the youth activity facilities provided by the YMCA and numerous other youth agencies, all operated for the primary purpose of making a better citizen out of each member. It is indeed gratifying for a policeman to be able to recommend these fine agencies. Various interesting but often harmless characters are found in practically every beat, and a tolerant attitude should be shown towards them as long as they remain law-abiding citizens. An experienced officer realizes the necessity for regular checks in the public restrooms, as this is a popular spot for many sex perverts and should be investigated thoroughly. Public gatherings of any size, such as this, should be investigated. Free speech, of course, is protected under the Bill of Rights, but an officer must be on the alert for any attempt on the part of some rabble-rouser to abuse this right by inciting a crowd to a possible riot. If the sidewalk is merely blocked, he should take the necessary steps to clear it. Being friendly with the various people on your beat can pay good dividends by aiding you considerably in your work, as they can be good sources of information. Filling out the daily log sheet is required at the end of all watches. The officer transfers from his notebook the pertinent details concerning his police activities of the day so that a permanent departmental record can be maintained. Let us close this training film with the reminder that your new profession is a heritage from honest, intelligent policemen who worked and fought and died to make the Los Angeles Police Department one of the finest in the world. It is your privilege and your duty to proudly uphold this heritage.